Life before death. Strength before weakness. Journey before destination, as we count down the top 10 greatest moments from the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. Coming in at number 10, Teft swears the third ideal. I will protect those I hate, even if the one I hate most is myself. Teft begins as one of Bridge 4's most trusted leaders, a gruff, experienced soldier who helped shape the Bridgemen into a true fighting unit, built around the ideals of the Knights Radiant. But beneath that strength, he is carrying deep shame, self-hatred, and guilt from his past, especially over betraying his family as a child. At Urithiru, that self-loathing worsens. Teft feels unworthy of being a Radiant and falls back into addiction, eventually selling his Bridge 4 coat for fire moss. When Rock and Bizig are later attacked by someone using that coat as a disguise, Teft is overwhelmed by guilt and nearly gives up on himself completely. But Fendorana, his spren, refuses to abandon him. She reminds him that everyone is broken and that people can fill their cracks with something stronger. In that moment, Teft accepts the hardest truth of his life, that the person he most hates is himself, and that even he deserves protection. He swears the third ideal, that he will protect those he hates, even if the one he hates most is himself. A luminous wall expanded from the Oathgate platform in a ring, trailing a glowing afterimage. It faded to reveal an entire division of Alethi troops in Colin blue standing upon the Oathgate platform. Then, like a herald from lore, a man rose into the air above them. Glowing white with stormlight, the bearded man carried a long silver shard spear with a strange crossguard shape behind the tip. Teft, Knight Radiant. A powerful moment, because Teft's Radiant Oath is not about defeating an enemy, but about choosing compassion towards himself. It turns his shame into strength and makes his brokenness part of his healing. You could say that Teft is the embodiment of the Japanese concept of kintsugi. The cracks in an object are filled with gold and celebrated. Coming in at number 9, Adolin saves Notum from the Tukari. Ona is not dead, so long as he lives in the hearts of men. While traveling through Shadismar, Adolin realizes that a group of hostile Tukari are hunting the honor spren Notum. Without hesitation, Adolin rides gallant to rescue Notum from brutal torture. Although heavily outnumbered, Adolin throws himself into the fight and holds his ground through sheer courage and skill. During the battle, Maya, his dead-eye shardblade spren, manifests physically, takes up a sword and fights beside him. Standing back-to-back with Adolin in a stance they had practiced together for years, Maya helps prevent the Tukari from surrounding him. The sight of Maya fighting alongside Adolin is one of the earliest and strongest indications that their bond is unique and that a dead eye may not be as lost as everyone believed. The rescue has major consequences beyond the battle itself. Notum witnesses firsthand Adolin's courage, selflessness, and sense of honor, qualities many honor spren had come to doubt existed in humans after the Recreants. During Adolin's trial at lasting integrity, Notum refuses to testify against Adolin and defends him with the immortal words, "Honor is not dead, so long as he lives in the hearts of men." The rescue of Notum reveals the very best of Adolin's character, demonstrating the unprecedented bond between Adolin and Maya, and ultimately helps bridge the divide between humans and spren. The rescue occurs in the aptly named chapter, The Strength of a Soldier. Coming in at number 8, Kaladin survives the highstorm. Tell them I'll open my eyes and look back at them, and they'll know that I survived. Kaladin had once dreamed of becoming a surgeon like his father. Then he became a soldier, determined to protect those who could not protect themselves. But his brother Tian was killed. His squadmates died. He was betrayed by the very light eyes he served and was thrown into slavery. Yet here on the shattered plains, he has started to transform Bridge 4 from a collection of broken men into a family, into a formidable team. Rock, Teft, Moash, the wounded, the forgotten, the condemned. Kaladin wasn't behaving the way a slave was supposed to behave. Then came the punishment. Kaladin was chained up outside during a high storm. Winds powerful enough to tear stone apart, flying debris that can shred flesh. Alone in the darkness, battered by winds that should have killed him within moments, Kaladin endured. When dawn finally came, his eyes opened. For the men of Bridge 4, it was a miracle. For Kaladin, it was a turning point. With Syl at his side, Kaladin was absorbing the stormlight. It was also the first signs that the age of heroes was returning. The powers of the Knights Radiant, ancient guardians thought lost to history, were awakening again. Kaladin Stormblessed. The man who survived the storm would go on to save kings, lead armies, and inspire nations. But it started here, a broken slave, hung out to die, and a storm that refused to take him, and instead gave him strength. Coming in at number 7, Navani bonds with the Sibling and reactivates Urithiru's defenses.
Journey before destination, you bastard!
Urithiru has fallen. The tower's defenses have been corrupted, and the fused warriors have slaughtered the defenders as the Radiance lie unconscious. Time is running out as Raboniel seeks to turn the Sibling into a slave with Voidlight. Navani's brave warriors do their best to protect the ancient Spren, but they are cut down by the pursuer. Now, she plays a dangerous game of cat and mouse with Raboniel as she unlocks the ancient secrets of Roshar. Through her experiments, Navani unlocks the tones and rhythms of honor, cultivation, and odium. But is she too late to save the Sibling, the living soul of Urithiru, now on the verge of being permanently corrupted by the fused? Navani is plagued with self-doubt, but then, a pure song rising up from within her. She sings Honor's song. The pillar begins to vibrate as the Sibling sang Cultivation's song, the pure sound of lifelight. The two snapped into harmony. They vibrated together. Structure and wonder, the song of science itself. This is it, the Sibling whispered to the rhythm of the tower. My song. Navani's words are accepted just as the traitor Moash's blade is about to fall. She forms a Nahal bond with the Sibling and Urithiru awakens once more. Navani purges the enemy's influence, reactivates the city's defenses, and saves thousands of lives. In that moment, she transforms from a queen and a scholar into the protector of Urithiru itself. Navani finally overcomes her own self-doubt and imposter syndrome. Despite her achievements, she has long believed the criticism that she is merely a patron of great minds, rather than a great scholar herself. Her deceased husband was cruel and never recognized her genius. Navani proves him and herself wrong. Number 6, Kaladin swears the fourth ideal. I accept it, Stormfather. I accept that there will be those I cannot protect. Kaladin faces his darkest hour. The defense of Urithiru has left him on the verge of collapse. So many friends lost over the years, and now Teft is dead. He had been so vibrant, so alive. He depended on Kaladin, like his brother Tian, like 100 others, but he couldn't save them. He couldn't protect them. Syl whimpered, shrinking in on herself. Kaladin Stormblessed was a lie. Kaladin has been pushed to the edge, a deeply traumatized soldier carrying the cumulative burden of failure, all the people he couldn't save, and the crushing expectation that he must protect everyone. And now he is falling from the tower, consumed by grief and guilt, and it looks like his father is lost. With Dalinar willing him on from afar, Kaladin experiences a vision of Tian who holds him and whispers, "It's all right. I'm here to help you feel brave." Tien explains that the moments we spent with each other are the only things that do matter. The times we helped each other. The enemy may kill us, but he can't take our moments, our connection. Those are the things that really matter. Tien gives Kaladin a small wooden horse and encourages him to say the words. He holds Syl's hand and he says, "I accept it, Stormfather. I accept that there will be those I cannot protect." With his words accepted, he pierces the blackness like a spear, a lance of light. Kaladin, storm-blessed, reborn. With the fourth ideal, he has broken through his psychological barrier, and he is no longer defined by impossible expectations. But he does go on to save his father and countless others. Number 5. Maya reveals the truth at Adolin's trial.
Adolin, we chose.
Adolin is on trial at Lasting Integrity, the fortress of the Honor Spren. He had traveled through Shadismar with Shallan and their companions to seek allies against Odium. Instead of being welcomed as a diplomat, Adolin has been arrested and charged with humanity's original sin of the Recreants. The Knights Radiant had abandoned their sacred oaths and left thousands of Spren as deadeyes. The trial is a farce. Witnesses are hostile, even when Notum, who Adolin had rescued, chooses to defy his brethren and declare that honor is not dead so long as he lives in the hearts of men. Even he is dragged off. To make matters worse, the sneering Sakir has now dragged Maya into proceedings as the final witness and is claiming to speak for her. They turn Maya into a spectacle and accuse Adolin of treating her as a slave and a tool. They don't realize that Adolin truly cares for Maya and can't bear to see her in pain. "Your point is made," he says softly. "Let Maya go. Pass your judgment." But they won't stop. Maya begins to thrash. She growls, and yet they won't stop. "She's in pain," Adolin shouted, lunging forward. "Let her go, you bastard! Your point is made." "My point cannot be made strongly enough," Sakir shouted. "It must be repeated over and over." Maya howls with anguish, and Adolin wills her to take his strength. Somehow, she looks right at him, draws strength, and she spoke. "We chose!" The court is stunned. Adolin runs to Maya and she clings to him. "Adolin, we chose." Her testimony shatters a belief that has endured for thousands of years. The Spren were not helpless victims, abandoned without warning by their Radiance. The Honor Spren are forced to confront the fact that their ancestors shared responsibility for the decision. Adolin is vindicated, and it confirms his unwavering belief that Maya was never just a weapon. While everyone else saw a broken shardblade, Adolin treated her as a friend, and in the moment when he needed her most, she stood up and spoke for herself. The victory belongs to Maya, and the final words belong to her. "You cannot have my sacrifice. My sacrifice, not yours, not theirs, not his, mine. My sacrifice." Number 4. Dalinar rejects Odium's offer to surrender his guilt. "You cannot have my pain!" The battle rages on at Thalen Field, and Dalinar stands on the edge of oblivion. Forced by Odium to relive the atrocities of the past, he is tormented with the guilt of what he has done. All the suppressed memories come flooding back. He was the Blackthorn, a brutal warlord. Fueled by rage and the thrill, he burned the city of Rathalis, killing thousands, including his own wife. Overwhelmed by his memories, Dalinar becomes vulnerable to Odium, who offers him a seductive escape, the chance to give up his pain, his guilt, and his responsibility. Odium's argument is simple and powerful. Dalinar is irredeemable, defined by his atrocities, and should become Odium's champion rather than a broken man pretending to lead. Was Dalinar Odium's puppet all along? Would he now sell his very soul to relieve his burden? Dalinar appears spiritually and emotionally broken. Odium expects him to surrender and become his champion. Dalinar roars in defiance, "You cannot have my pain!" At that moment, Dalinar fully bonds with the Stormfather as a bondsmith and creates Honor's perpendicularity, causing a column of brilliant light to erupt from him on the battlefield. The scene becomes both a personal redemption and a turning point in the war. With these words, Dalinar refuses to take the easy way out. He accepts the truth. He will not allow Odium to strip him of agency, to condemn him as a man who can never change. Dalinar acknowledges every failure, every horror, and refuses to let those experiences be taken from him. "I will take responsibility for what I have done. If I must fall, I will rise each time a better man." Number 3. Dalinar gives up his shardblade to free Bridge 4. What is a man's life worth? The battered remains of Dalinar's army march across the shattered plains. Out of 8,000 men, only 2,653 survived the Battle of the Tower. Sadeas had left them to die. Without the heroic actions of Bridge 4, even those men would not have been able to escape death at the hands of the Singer army. Dalinar vows to protect Kaladin and his men from Sadeas, but he knows that he must control his anger and vengeance. He must protect Elethgar first. In the war camp, Sadeas publicly apologizes for overestimating the threat against Dalinar's forces and retreating too soon. But privately, he tells Dalinar that the betrayal was necessary to protect Elhokar, that Dalinar is going insane and becoming weak. Dalinar tries to buy freedom for the bridgemen, but Sadeas refuses to let them go. He rejects Dalinar's offer of 60 emerald bromes for each member. As Kaladin turns away, thinking Dalinar would not be able to fulfill his promise, Dalinar summons his shardblade and thrusts it into the ground. He offers it in exchange for all of Sadeas' bridgemen. Sadeas mocks Dalinar for giving up his shardblade for worthless slaves. "This weapon is worth fortunes, cities, palaces, kingdoms," he says. But he accepts. The bridgemen are free to join Dalinar's army. Kaladin can't believe what he has witnessed, and we get this beautiful exchange. Dalinar asks softly, "What is a man's life worth?" "The slave masters say one is worth about 2 emerald bromes," Kaladin said, frowning. "And what do you say?" "A life is priceless," he said immediately, quoting his father. Dalinar smiled, wrinkled lines extending from the corner of his eyes. "Coincidentally, that is the exact value of a shardblade. So today, you and your men sacrificed to buy me 2,600 priceless lives, and all I had to repay you with was a single priceless sword. I call that a bargain." With these words, an alliance is born that leads to the rebirth of the Knights Radiant. Kaladin is made captain of Dalinar's guard. Bridge 4 evolves into an elite military unit, then later into the core of the Windrunners. Number 2. Kaladin jumps into the arena to fight alongside Adolin. Honor is dead, but I'll see what I can do. Adolin stands alone in the arena, facing 4 fully armed shard-bearers. A trap, and they will not stop until he is crippled or dead. Despite his skill, Adolin is overwhelmed, his plate cracking under repeated blows as the crowd watches in shock. Adolin's younger brother Renarin tries to help, but he is no warrior. Dalinar is powerless to intervene and turns to the light eyes in the stands. "You can watch this?" He shouted at them. "My sons fight alone! There are shard-bearers among you! Is there not one of you who will fight with them?" Silence. The king looks at his feet. Amaram looks away. "What has happened to us? Where is our honor?" Kaladin replies, "Honor is dead, but I'll see what I can do." And he leaps into the arena with no armor and nothing more than a spear. What follows is one of the most thrilling fight sequences ever put to paper. Kaladin becomes Adolin's shield, drawing enemies away, breaking shardblade with impossible moves, and repeatedly risking his life to keep both Adolin and Renarin alive. The battle turns desperate. Kaladin shatters his own legs with a stormlight-fueled strike, heals and keeps fighting. Adolin, battered but not outmatched, manages to crack his opponent's armor one piece at a time. Together, they begin turning the tide. But at the climax, Renarin stood alone, defenseless. The last unbroken duelist charged straight for him. Kaladin sprinted across the arena, shouting for Renarin to yield. And as the shardblade came down, Kaladin threw himself between them and did the impossible. He caught the blade with his bare hands. The arena froze. The scream that erupted from the weapon sent shockwaves through everyone watching. And the fight ends with the surrender of the remaining opponents, and Adolin declared the victor. Kaladin takes another step towards becoming a legend, the personification of honor, of courage, or simply the spear that would not break. And a long-lasting friendship is forged as two warriors fought side by side and triumphed against impossible odds. And coming in at number 1, the greatest moment in the Stormlight Archive, Bridge 4 rescues Dalinar's army. We have to go back. Storm it. We have to go back. Betrayal. Dalinar's army is trapped on the plateau known as the Tower. Sadeas withdrew his troops and all the bridges needed to cross the chasms back to safety. He had waited until Dalinar's forces were fully engaged and a second Parshendi army had appeared. Outnumbered and surrounded with no hope of escape, Dalinar, Adolin, and their troops have been left to die. Meanwhile, Kaladin sees a chance for the men of Bridge 4 to escape, but the sight of Dalinar's desperate army twisted at his heart, and he sees the sorrow in Syl's face as she watches the tower. Kaladin seems to hear his father's voice. Somebody has to start, son. Somebody has to step forward and do what is right, because it is right. If nobody starts, then others cannot follow. We have to go back, Kaladin said softly. Storm it, we have to go back. He turned to the members of Bridge 4. One by one, they nodded. Men who had been the dregs of the army just months before, men who had once cared for nothing but their own skins, took deep breaths, tossed away thoughts for their own safety, and nodded. They would follow him. And how they followed him. Over 100 arrows pulled into Kaladin's shield. Teft, Rock, Lopin pushing the bridge across. Bridge 4 fighting as heroes. Syl crying out the words Kaladin. Kaladin whispering the second ideal of the Knights Radiant, I will protect those who cannot protect themselves. Dalinar and his remaining troops breaking through towards the bridge. A final group of Parshendi lay between Dalinar and the chasm, but their backs were turned to him. Why were they? The bridgemen. The bridgemen were fighting. Dalinar gaped, lowering Oathbringer with numb arms. That little force of bridgemen held the bridgehead, fighting desperately against the Parshendi who were trying to force them back. It was the most amazing, most glorious thing Dalinar had ever seen. After their miraculous escape, Dalinar makes Kaladin a promise. Return with me. I vow that you will be safe. I promise it with every shred of honor I have. And of course, he keeps his promise. But it all started with Bridge 4 making the right choice. The greatest moment from the Stormlight Archive. Life before death. Strength before weakness. Journey before destination. Thank you for listening, and please share your own favorite moments in the comments below.